Well, the funny thing is, Josh, I was working on that before you had texted me because if I don't write them down, then I forget my thoughts, or rather I forget the emotion that I tied to why I thought I had a positive or negative experience. And if I can write them down and then tie that emotion to something, then I can learn from it.
Welcome to Trail Effect. I am your host, Josh Blum. Trail Effect is a show that dives into the stories behind trails, the communities that embrace trails, and the people who rely on trails as a way of life. The goal of this show is to turn the stories you will hear from our guests into useful knowledge that can be applied to your community while providing some entertaining and inspirational content. Guests on Trail Effect include trail builders, board members, community leaders, volunteers, and regular people who really enjoy trails. For episode 208, we have Ethan Edman, the Director of Trail Construction and Maintenance at the Oz Trails Bike Park. If you want a real understanding of how one of the most anticipated bike parks in the country is coming together, this conversation is for you. Ethan isn't speaking in hypotheticals. He's been on the ground working on trails, thinking through operations, and drawing from years of intentionally riding and dissecting gravity bike parks with a critical eye. He pays close attention to rider experience, uplift logistics, progression, and the small decisions that determine whether a bike park simply exists or actually keeps people coming back. We dig into creating the Oz Trails Bike Park from a blank canvas, how you build 30 trails across 260 acres that has 280 feet of elevation gain without repetition, and why offering a wide range of rider experiences really matters. We also talk about the chairlift, staff training, Gravity Logic's role, and how the Oz Trails Bike Park fits into the larger Arkansas riding landscape. This is a thoughtful inside look of a bike park being built with intention from somebody who is uniquely qualified to talk about it. The Outdoor Marketing Bootcamp is where outdoor brands, organizations, and trail builders get real about marketing. On February 17th and 18th, 2026, join a 2-day virtual training with top outdoor marketing pros like Jed Gunn from Truck Bikes, Mark Ayler from Leave No Trace, and many others who know how to get your message heard. You'll learn story frameworks, audience strategies, and grant-winning tactics tailored to the outdoor world. If you want your marketing to work as hard as the projects you are building, this bootcamp is for you. You can check it out at www.outdoormarketingbootcamp.com or hit the link in the show notes. Now on to the Trail Effect with Ethan Edman.
But yeah, you're totally right. You cut down a lift line straight into the hillside, and it transforms, one, the way you perceive depth perception of our hills, and two, you all of a sudden open up these really unique views that you didn't ever realize that were there. One of them is not from the top, which is what I would think you would expect me to say, but coming across from Blowing Springs, and you're coming into where Mercy Hospital is, and that intersection with the gas station and where the Allen's food grocer is. And you can just see this. You just see a high-speed detached quad going up the side of the hill, and you can see both the top and the bottom terminal from the bottom. And it's just like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is happening. We're building a big time bike park in a very condensed space. And it's pretty unique. It's very unique. And super exciting. We're all just fired up about it all the time.
Man, it is exciting. I'm going to do a quick intro just so people know who you are. And then but I love rolling into this stuff, like kind of just off the whim too. So here we are today on Trail Effect. I've got Ethan Edman. Ethan is the Director of Trail Construction and Maintenance of the Oz Trails Bike Park. And I'm welcoming Ethan back because Ethan was also a guest in episode 127 that aired in May of 2023, which wasn't too long after you and I met.
That's right.
A lot has happened since then.
A lot has happened since then. And the last 2 years have been very busy, very complicated, and very exciting. Lots of change, lots of moving things, all progress in the right direction in terms of the bike industry and where I'm at. So I'm super excited to be here and talk with you again, Josh.
Well, it's interesting because we met in spring of 2023, and then I took a job at Rock Solid. And then the following year, you took a job at Rock Solid. And so we're actually able to be coworkers in that time frame as well, which is awesome.
Yep. And I really enjoyed my time both working at Rock Solid and being able to work with you on a handful of projects. It was really exciting and a ton of fun. And, got to build my resume, if you will, in terms of what I've been out in the world and done and built and the people I've gotten to work with, which have made so many projects successful. So thanks to you for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this transition to you working at the Austrails Bike Park, when I found out you were going to work there, I mean, obviously I was bummed to lose you as a coworker, but at the same time, I was like, you know what? That's like the most logical career move Ethan could make.
I can't agree more. I mean, it just checks all the boxes for me. I mean, I have to pinch myself pretty regularly to be like, oh my gosh, again, really? This is one where I get to show up to work, and two, this is kind of like in some capacity, gets to be mine from the beginning to operation to well beyond operation to being able to see it to its best form, if you will. Its most evolved form. And maybe it's a year from now where we feel like that, 2 years from that, and we start to get building more stuff. But this is mine and a handful of others' creation that we get to hold on to and make our own, which is just really, really exciting.
Let's provide some context as to why this is a logical career move. And I'm going to say that because one of the things I know you as is being a connoisseur of bike parks in general. And you've been to a lot of bike parks around the country, and maybe you've left the country. I don't know. But I know that even when you came here to work in La Crosse, like you were gone on the weekends going to ride different bike parks that you could ride because you wanted to like get your own notes around what you liked, what you didn't like, things that just worked well. And obviously things that are preparing you for what exactly you're doing now.
Yeah. I mean, it all stems from a passion of mountain biking, right? And I think we all, as we mountain bike, tend to gravitate towards different styles of mountain biking, of course. And my style of mountain biking just happens to be in the bike park space. And I think we should put a qualifier there because as you and I, Josh, we both know, the term bike park is a little bit of a misused term in some capacity. So let me put a little bit of clarification there for the users. I specifically mean pay to play lift access style bike parks. And now, again, I know you've covered this a lot on your podcast as well, but that line even is broken down into subsections as well within chairlift access bike parks, shuttle bike parks. And then even from there, there's more subcategories. Is it a tractor? Is it a fan? Is it you're right. I absolutely love bike parks. I really love gravity oriented pay to play style bike parks. They just offer one, the most adrenaline pack punch you can get. And two, they're built very intentionally, almost always. The trails are intentional. The customer's intentional. And it's not just a fly by the seat thing because there's always a significant investment involved with making it happen. So yeah, I've spent a ton of time riding bikes at cool lift serve bike parks. And I've learned a lot of things over the years from going to those places. I've taken a lot of notes, and you're right. I've found what I think makes for a successful bike park. And so to come back to the question, how this is a logical move for me is one, I own a house here. So I don't have to travel very far to go to work anymore. And two, we're building a chairlift bike park in Northwest Arkansas. So I get to take all of those experiences from all of those bike parks I visited and be able to implement in my day-to-day work, which is, I just can't think of a better place for myself to be. To add to that as well, I was so fortunate to get this job at a time in which the bike park was nowhere near completion yet. So trails were maybe 50% cut in the ground, but even from that point, none of them have been, really finalized yet when I got here. So you get to leave your fingerprint on something from the beginning, which really means you're working ahead of the curve rather than trying to go back and fix things, or something like that after we open. And I'm sure we'll have plenty of that after we get open as well. But at least we can be confident, that it's going to be something that we're excited about to share with the world.
Yeah. And you didn't just get the keys to something without having any input on it.
No, exactly. We not only have input on it, but we get to make edits and adjustments with Gravity Logics and with the blessing of both my superiors, with Gravity Logic, with Rock Solid in the bike park. We're all working together to get this thing to be the best version of itself. And again, coming back to the first question, a lot of that is derived from experience. You know, we want to make sure that we're giving the best product to our customers, but that product is just really sick mountain biking. So
yeah. Let's give some love to some of your more favorite places you've visited. I know Angel Fire is a place that you've maybe frequent is the wrong term because it is a fair distance away, but it's probably one of your...
I think frequent is the right term.
Okay.
I think I've spent a total of 25 days on that mountain biking. Oftentimes 3 or 4 days at a time. I'll just drive out and park my car and go ride there. But, you know, Angel Fire is a unique bike park. It is unique in good and bad ways. But for an experienced rider, it's one of the best experiences you can have, I think, in this country. It's 2,100 foot plus of vertical relief. There is no other option at this point. You are on the chairlift from the bottom to the top. And if you're a never have I ever rider, you're stuck in for 2,000 plus foot of descending. So it's a challenging place. But from a rider's perspective, they have a huge variety of different kinds of trails to bring people of different levels. So if you're not a never have I ever, they have a tremendous amount of blue and blue flow, blue hybrid, and blue technical trails. That is a huge appeal to what I would call the meat and potatoes of the industry. That diversity as well leads to a huge number of trails that just feel really unique, whether they're fast and bermy or they have a bunch of drops in them, or they're a specific jump line. That bike park is so big that it just has everything you could ever want in that space. And if you're paying for something, especially a premium price like you pay at Angel Fire, you kind of expect that. And they need to be able to deliver that as a business. They need to be able to deliver that so people come back again. And I'm a testament to that. I go back at least once a year. So. And I have lots of options. You know, we're right in the middle of the country. I could drive east and go to Tennessee. I can go to Texas. I can really the same distance as all the way up to Minnesota. And I can drive out to the Rocky Mountains. And I choose to go instead of oftentimes even to Trestle or one of the other really big ones in that part of the country. I go to Angel Fire. So they also have real downhill racing there, you know. So if you've got a dual crown bike, it's pretty amazing. I think, my list of bike parks is what I would call my favorite bike parks is pretty diverse because every bike park offers such a unique experience. Angel Fire is huge. It's got all the downhill your hands and arms could ever really want. You can blow yourself out there. You know, you can just get worn out. But some of my other favorites are more sleepers. Spirit Mountain Duluth is an absolute hoot of a bike park. And I had no expectations going into it. I had never really spoken to anybody that had been there before. And then I come to find out when I'm working at Rock Solid that a coworker of mine at the time actually ran the summer operations there, which is so funny. But that bike park offers, again, a much more condensed version of what Angel Fire has. But it's only 600 foot of elevation, right, in Spirit Mountain. But they have a high-speed chairlift. Your uplift experience is phenomenal at that bike park. It takes maybe 5 minutes to go to the top. And the trails, again, are really good. They are quite diverse. In the last couple of seasons that I've been there, they've been adding some really, really well done jump lines. A good friend of mine and another builder, Mike Rogan, and another buddy of his are building those trails there. And I just can't say enough positive things about it. I know that they've got some really strict regulations in that part of the country for stormwater protection and erosion control. And I can tell you this, their finished product is absolutely incredible and rides so well. So much fun. Really diverse, a lot of pockety corners, really predictable jumps, and a lot of speed. And from a mountain of that size, it just proves that you can do a lot with a little. And it's fantastic. It's really, really fun. Some East Coast stuff, I would say, you know, this is not an uncommon one, but Highlands is fantastic. It's really, really, really cool bike park, you know, but the chairlift experience, not great. It's okay. really old chairlift, non-detached, takes at least 10 minutes to get to the top. And the good news is their trails are amazing, and their soil there is some of the best in the world for mountain biking. It's just this combination of glass smooth clay and rock that, immovable granite, basically. So you end up with incredible features in that bike park, both technical, big rock drops, chunky areas, and then perfectly smooth flow trails. So kudos to their trail crew, by the way. They do a really, really killer job. Thunder Mountain Bike Park, I would also have to bring up, they have pushed the boundaries with what is even thought of as possible within the confines of a bike park. Fort Hill, people looked at that 5 years ago and were like, dude, what is that? And now every bike park in the country is like, oh, we need to build some 50-foot hits in our bike park. In some capacity that started with them. Theirs is, I think, even a more nuttier than some other folks because they built it all out of wood. It's pretty wild what they've put into a public space. Another set of kudos out to their trail crew. They do a great job maintaining their bike park as well. Their experience has changed over the years. My first time I went there was on a slow chairlift, and now they put in a high-speed quad, and I went back again this year, and wow, makes the difference. It really does. I know they do it for ski reasons, but the mountain biking is definitely benefiting from that as well. So yeah, I've been super, super fortunate to be all over the country and ridden different kinds of bike parks. You got to mention Windrock, absolute wild west of a bike park. So steep, so gnarly. I mean, if you're going to go train for downhill, that's where you want to go. There's trails there that'll scare a seasoned rider, both from a steepness factor, unpredictability standpoint, but that kind of Wild West vibe is what they built their whole business model on, which is fascinating because it kind of goes counter to what's a lot of what the industry sees as quote unquote acceptable or unacceptable, which is pretty gray area from what I've learned over the years. But yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite though, Josh. I do have a lot of favorite experiences though that I've developed from those places. And, I think when I really look back at favorite bike parks, I look back to those experiences as what do they mean to me and mean to my career, and how can I use them to make myself a better trail builder? And, one that always sticks out in my head is this trail called Bonesaw at Highland. And it's a wildly unique usage of wood featured, weirdly steep terrain to link a very narrow corridor in with a mid-mountain area that would probably have been otherwise kind of nearly impossible to make work. But they send these wood features up into what I would call the crotches of a split tree, and then they'll drop you off the backside off of a downward facing drop into a catch. And it's not a big blown out trail, but it is most certainly a unique experience. And I say that because I want to be the kind of builder and teach people within the bike park to build things that both work fundamentally, but also make people remember them and want to come back. And because again, at the end of the day, if you're operating a bike park, you're trying to sell tickets and you want people to come back again. Getting somebody in the door one time is something, but getting them in 2, 3, 5, 10 times is a totally different thing. And I don't want to throw shade on any bike park that I've been to, so I won't name any names when it comes to the negative experiences. But there are definitely negative experiences that have that same effect, and you can avoid them if you're smart and you're diligent about planning and building good features.
For sure. And just to provide some context about how Ethan studies these things, and just like Ethan said, we don't have to name names, but Ethan went to a bike park while he was here in Wisconsin working. And after he came back, I asked him what he thought. And I don't know if he did talk to text, if he took all these notes on a iPad or what it was, but the text that he responded with in terms of like the level of detail down to like the trail by trail and feature by feature notes that he had on this place was incredible. It was one of the longest texts I've ever received in my life.
Well, the funny thing is, Josh, I was working on that before you had texted me, because if I don't write them down, then I forget my thoughts, or Rather, I forget the emotion that I tied to why I thought I had a positive or negative experience. And if I can write them down and then tie that emotion to something, then I can learn from it. If it's in the brain and it bounces around long enough, it'll be just gone like a fart in the wind, man. So
when, getting a hold of Ethan for this conversation about Oztrails Bike Park, like I wanted Ethan to provide this type of context before we rolled into Oztrails Bike Park, not only to build Ethan's credibility because people that know Ethan, they know he's credible, but to like really show that, he's been all over the country. He's looked at all these different places.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best thing that a trail builder can do in this industry is go ride your bike in a bunch of different places. It really opens your mind to what maybe you don't have to agree with everything that you're riding, but you can at least learn something from it. And getting to ride your bike in different terrains really changes your perspective because, people love Moab, but the trail building out there is 100% different than what we do in Northwest Arkansas. And I'm not saying one is more difficult or easier than one another, but we don't do the same exact thing at all. And again, those experiences are both tied to location, but also to the trail builder themselves. So, if you can ride in a bunch of different places, maybe you can't replicate Moab in Northwest Arkansas because you really can't. But you can at least take bits and pieces and key takeaways from things that are memorable and create positive experiences. And I think that's what I want to be really good at, is making sure that in the confines of what I'm working on right now, which is Oztrails Bike Park, that we're focusing on building really, really cool experiences. And I can tell you one thing, one of the trails that is in this bike park that I think is going to be one of the single best experiences is our chip seal, easiest way down, green, 2-mile long descent from the top terminal. It goes through one of the prettiest hollers, I think, that exists in Northwest Arkansas. And the work that we have done, which by the way, kudos to Rock Solid on this, and the team that's been on the ground, they're creating a true piece of artwork in that hill, inside the hills of the Oztrails Bike Park. And I just can't wait for people to see it. A huge portion of this trail is going to be an absolute blast. It's our thoroughfare through the bike park. And it really walks this really beautiful line of man-made, but also emphasizing what's naturally beautiful in that space. So yeah, I cannot wait to share that with people. I kind of got off track there. It's how I am. But experiences I feel like are derived from being in lots of other places and riding your bike and figuring out what you like, but then applying a certain level of science and math and making sure that what you build, especially in a pay-to-play style bike park, is defensible, right? And in the bike park, the magnifying glass increases for sure.
Kettle Mountain Apparel has fall and winter gear dialed. Cold is creeping in, and if you plan to keep getting outside, you'll need layers that actually pull their weight. Kettle delivers with solid base layers, dependable outerwear, and no-nonsense designs that handle real weather. Hit the link in the show notes or on the Trail Effect website when you place your next Kettle Mountain order, and you'll be supporting the show at the same time. Venture far and laugh hard. We're going to transition back into the details of the bike park, but I want to transition first to the lift.
Yeah.
And here's where I'm going with this, because you said a couple key things that you could say make or break a bike park experience in other places, so I look at chairlifts two different ways. One is I look at them for summer operations. The other is I look at them for winter operations. And while they're kind of the same experience, they're not at all the same experience. For example, I'll say time and time again, the only way to go with a summer bike park experience is to have a high-speed detachable lift, because
absolutely,
you're not only just moving people, you're moving their bikes too. Now with skis and snowboarding and whatnot, the skis and the snowboard are attached to the human, so it's all kind of one unit that rides up together. And you can absolutely overload a ski hill with a high-speed quad because you just put too many people on top of the hill at the same time. But that's usually like, and I look at that like where I live, I have Mount La Crosse right out, like literally almost out my window. and it doesn't have a high-speed quad. It's got 3, attached or fixed grip, I guess is the best way to say it, chairs, 2-person chairs that were, from the 1960s and 70s. And if you put, and I know at some point they're probably going to, if you put a high-speed quad on, you got to be purposeful with how much capacity that hill is going to take. But
absolutely.
It's the opposite, I'm going to say, for bikes because of the equipment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, the chairlift itself is, again, it's a make or break experience in this. When you really step back and objectively look at what we're building here, the chairlift is the glue that holds this whole thing together. One, as you noted here briefly, a detached quad allows you, one, to uplift 4 people at a time and 4 bikes at a time. But it also allows you to load 4 bikes and run the haul rope at a high speed. So the bike can be loaded easily. And then your chairlift, your time to the top is 3.5 minutes on this thing. It's incredibly short. And the chairlift itself being brand new is another benefit to us because we know that this thing is in proper condition day one, and all of the problems that are that come up with this thing in the future are our problems. They're not somebody else's old problems. And it integrates into this space really, really nicely. The chairlift is interesting because it allows us to open up this whole space on the south side of this hauler. It's actually really not one hill. It's what I would call like 3 fingers of a hill. And the one on the northwest side just happens to be the tallest one. So we went there. And, we're going to be able to put up something like 1,200 riders an hour with this thing. And we've got just over 30 trails. And we're going to have 30 trails open day one, which is kind of wild. And our hope is that we put enough people up that you'll be able to ride our chip seal trail, which is the very first trail you get to off the top, and ride that trail along effectively the border of a road called Cunningham. And that road is effectively our western perimeter. And there'll be a fence there. But the chip seal trail goes all along that road and then splits off like it's reaching the tops of 2 other summits, if you will. And really, in some capacity, we have a 4th one that we're calling, at least colloquially right now, there will be another name at some point, but we're calling it a single track summit, which is all just hand cut, almost close to fall line trails. They're kind of rowdy. And what's fun about that zone is it's really, really, it's as far away from the chairlift as you can get. And that's very much intentional to get people to slow down. As you were saying, you can get too many people up a mountain, even I think in mountain biking, it is possible, especially if everybody was on the front side of the bike park. But we got enough separation that our laps are going to be definitely slower than the return of the chair if you don't just ride the very first trail off the top down. So it's going to be really exciting to see unfold. In some ways, we think that especially during the first year, maybe and probably for longer, as looking at the growth patterns of Northwest Arkansas, that we'll probably have to limit capacity within the bike park, which, is a good problem to have, specifically on weekends and holidays and things like that. I don't think that will be the case most of the time, but definitely on certain days out of the year, we think that will be the case.
I mean, it's not unheard of in the ski industry these days to, limit pass sales or limit, for example, some places only allow pass holders on certain days.
That's right. And I spoke with the owner of Highland Bike Park, Mark. I'm sure you've spoken to him before. I think actually I remember listening to the podcast. He told me that they pretty regularly have to limit capacity in their bike park. And so they really push pre-sales of tickets, and they even incentivize it. So that way they know what they're getting into on the weekend. And we are going to do the same thing. That's just smart business. These days you don't have to buy a physical pass. So we're going to be using Access, AXCESS. I'm sure you've heard of them, that for our entry, and long or the short is we're going to be able to do a lot of those things day one. And it's really exciting because we're going to be able to gather metrics as well, on uplift and down, all the fun data that comes with being able to track that. But most importantly, we're going to be able to hopefully provide an experience where people are not waiting in long lift lines.
Well, not to stay on the tangent of chairlifts for too long, but another benefit, and this just popped into my head when you were talking about detachable versus fixed grip, is when I load my bike onto a fixed grip chair, it's kind of an experience that you have to be good at what you're doing. Because while the chairlift ride is slow, when that chair comes around the bull wheel and you're trying to put that bike on that chair, it actually is really fast. And so when you detach, you don't have that. Everything slows down, and a kid can do it. Because that's how I look at it. Can my kid do this?
Absolutely. And, we also went with decent built trays. And if your chairlift is designed for that day one, you can go with the quad trays. And so they don't crowd the bikes. A lot of ski areas will modify their chairs to carry bikes, which almost inherently means you're going to take because you have the hoop over the top. The way a decent built 4 is, it's got a central arm in the middle and they stack outward from the center. So the bikes are not crowded and you can just 4 people at a time roll your bike on. You hit a really important point about detached or rather fixed grip chairlifts. I've ridden a bunch of them. Some of them are proper sketchy and some of them almost don't work. I mean, again, I'm not going to say names, but I've seen, basically a hook welded on the back of an old Hall chairlift and, $1,000 set of carbon wheels. I'm like, oh no, I don't know that this is not going to be that experience here. And yeah, you're totally right. A fixed grip, if the option was to have a chairlift or not have a chairlift, I think there's an argument to be made that like the Windrock experience is maybe as good or better until you go to a detached, because of exactly what you're saying. You have to run the chairlift really slow so it doesn't just smoke you when you're trying to load the dang thing and you're stuck running the chair slow. As soon as you've left the terminal, it feels like you're moving at the speed of smell. So this one runs at 800 feet per minute. It's fast.
Well, and I don't want to proclaim to be a chairlift expert because I'm not, but most states, if not all states, by law, you have to run your fixed grip speeds like half of what they would run in the winter and the summer, because you don't have somebody sliding in on a pair of skis or a snowboard to load. You have somebody walking up and rolling a bike. And so you can't even run your fixed grip chair as fast as you normally would in the winter months.
Not even close. And if you did, even the loading would be an absolute disaster. It would be totally wild. And I think Mark would tell you that. Mark Hayes would tell you the same thing. They run a really old chairlift. Luckily, they have decent trays on their lift, but their chairlift is really slow and they can't run it any faster. It's just not feasible to do so. And so they do run into crazy lift line because their mountain's only 570 foot tall. And if you're screaming down the hill, you're going to beat your own chair back down the hill, which inevitably means you're going to stack up at the bottom. So that's one thing that we are really, really going to try to avoid. And at the high speed chairlift really plays as a big factor into that. I think one thing that is maybe not perceived directly by most customers, but also the experience of a high-speed chairlift, they're just smooth and quiet. And, your bike's not getting beat up. You're not getting beat up. And we allow the rider to focus on riding, not on the, oh my gosh, my bike's going to get smoked, or I almost, whatever innumerable set of variables that could go poorly with other lift up experiences. This one's going to be a good one. I can tell you that.
Well, let's get into some of the details of the bike park itself, because I know, we're talking about Bentonville or Bella Vista exactly, and the elevation isn't huge there. But at the same time, let's talk about, your thoughts on this. No, I mean, I know you've ridden how many trails there already. Obviously, it's part of your job, right?
Yeah.
And what it's going to provide to kind of maybe dispel some of the maybe assumptions people might have.
Well, what's funny about mountain biking is we have no control over really anything except for grade. And you can produce the same amount of grade on 10,000 foot or 200 foot. It just means that your experience time changes because it's simple mathematics, right? Well, we have 280 foot of elevation. Nobody's telling us I can't build a 20% trail though. You know what I mean? And we have some spots in the bike park that we're going to have some steep, gnarly, hand cut, true black trails. That's the only way to explain it. I've actually got my map pulled up right here, and let me just kind of show you or tell you about one of our top to bottom blue jump lines. That trail is 0.7 miles long and it has something like 17 jumps in it. and average grade is 7.8%, which is right on the money for a blue jump line. And we're going to have one, two, three, four. I'm going to have 8 blue flow and jump lines in the bike park, and a total of 31 total trails. The park is going to have everything from never have I ever experienced with the chip seal trail up to the most double black features you can imagine. We have a trail that is literally underneath the lift line that has about a 50-foot gapped double on it.
Perfect.
And it may or may not be. Yeah, it may or may not be. It's going to be awesome. It's only 4 hits in a row. It goes berm, big drop over a jump line, immediately steps into like a 38-foot gapped double, and then a 50-foot gap double, and then ends in a crescendo of a huge step up. And, so I say that because the diversity in such a small place is really, really impressive. We have a lot of different kinds of trail, and the vertical relief just means you're going to get a ton of unique experiences throughout a day. It's short. The park is short and your laps are going to be short, but you're going to be able to they're going to try and do as many laps as humanly possible. And we're going to get a new record at some point. People are going to start keeping track. I bet it's easily in the 40s, maybe 50s. I have no idea. It's going to be wild.
We haven't talked about, and maybe you don't even know this answer yet, but I'm sure you have some sort of target on it. What is your expected, maybe not opening date, but even opening month? Obviously, like we were talking before.
We're close. We are nailing down times at this point. We're probably going to do some version of soft opening because we need to put hours on the chairlift to make sure our operations are dialed in May. And I think we're going to operate a few of those weekends and even some during the weekdays to just make sure our staff is fully trained. We're going to take that whole period to really get everyone up to speed. Turns out not many people know how to run a chairlift in Northwest Arkansas. So we're going to get everybody up to speed. And also from the trail perspective, we're going to try and treat that time as like a soft opening for us as well. So how are we going to integrate trail operations into a normal work week? To get back to answering your question, we think and we're shooting for June as an opening time. And we're pretty confident that we're going to get there. The chairlift keys have already been handed over to us. We're on schedule with the building, and that should be done in April. Gravity Logic is very likely going to be wrapped up by April. And then my crew we're still working as well. I've got 5 guys working full time in addition to Gravity Logic and in addition to Rock Solid. So we've got, realistically, there's over 20 people working on trail every day at the bike park. And the base area it's a hive of humans every day. So we are really cruising towards an on-time opening date of 2026. And realistically, I think there's no reason why we won't open in June.
Backing up a little bit,
sure.
Let's talk about what else is unique about this bike park. And I'm gonna lead with the fact that almost every bike park, with the exception of Windrock, that you listed as places you've been to before, and you could probably say Highlands now too, because they're only a bike park, also operate as a ski area. And it's so it gets brought up to me almost weekly now at this point. Like, it'd be awesome if Mountain Cross was a skier or was a bike park too, which I don't disagree. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
But one of the drawbacks you get with the ski area that doubles as a bike park is lack of trees.
The gladed runs are brutal. They're hard to plan around. And, this unique space, it's 200 acres of land that was effectively undisturbed oak forest. And if you get to design mountain bike trails as a clean slate, it changes everything. One, because this hill would not be really great at supporting skiing unless you just smoked a ton of trees. And 2, Northwest Arkansas hills are not well suited for skiing in some capacity. They have a lot of draws and hops in them. And even on the runs of vertical relief, you sometimes end up with chutes that go back into the hill. And so making continuous ski runs it would not really work. I mean, it could work in some capacity if it was redesigned completely, but it's really not. It wouldn't work well here. It does work for mountain biking, however. And the cool part about this space is because it is 3 high points, you get to kind of split the bike park up into different zones. And you probably just couldn't make that happen in a ski area. You're just stuck to where are the trees left? And even then, if it's a tree area off of a super busy run, they're probably not going to allow you to build trails in there either because people like tree runs. So having a blank slate means that you can optimize the whole space for mountain biking. That's really the key takeaway. This place is still going to feel completely tree covered. We haven't removed that many trees, if I'm going to be honest, except for the lift line, but there is just trails scattered everywhere throughout. And the way they interplay with the terrain is really neat. They're really all just optimized for this space. And, you see the map of it and you're like, oh, well, that's a downhill park because it's following the draws. But unlike any other bike park, there's trails everywhere. There's the whole thing is trails. And it's really fun. It's really fun. The bike park rides like a bike park. It rides like a downhill park. I think another thing to make note of is it's not going to give you a big Mountain West downhill experience though, in some capacity. You're probably not going to get blown out forearms. It's only 280 foot of vert, but there is a ton of diversity of trail. And I think that's as cool as anything. Like I said, I like bike parks for lots of different reasons. And I can tell you this objectively, not just because I work there, this place is going to be a ton of fun. The trails are a riot. And if you want unique experiences, we're going to have a pro level slopestyle course as well. That is right next to the lift line. And you're going to be able to see people dropping out and hitting a 9-foot ramp just below the chairlift. And one thing I think that is really important to say about all of my travels and all the bike parks that I've been to is Highland always sticks out to me because you walk into that place and the first thing that you notice about it is for mountain bikes. You see a chairlift, but you also see right in front of your face a pro level slopestyle course and a huge hipping table off to the left of the chairlift. And you walk into the base chalet area and there isn't a hint of skis, not even not an iota of skis. It is for mountain bikes, the whole place. And this place gives you that same vibe. It is for mountain bikes. And that is really cool.
How has it been working with Gravity Logic? They're one of the, I guess, when you look at builders that are like literally known around the world for building bike parks, that's got to be a unique experience for you.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I mean, I've been super fortunate to work with a lot of really talented people over the years. And I get to add these guys to my list. And I've really gotten to work closely with Dave Kelly and gotten to really pick his brain on really what makes Gravity Logic unique, because a lot of what we're doing is just trail building. And there's a lot of trail building companies out there, right? And what they bring to the table is a deep knowledge and understanding of, one, how a bike park should flow, and two, how a bike park should operate within as a unique business model. They have been doing this a long time. And so they've optimized our space from an operational standpoint. And I think that's a huge key takeaway with what they're good at, is building out something that works as a business, they're not just trail building. This is a whole package. They understand signage that is involved in trail building in a bike park space. They understand chairlifts. They understand the integration of chairlift and trail. They understand that chairlifts come with their own strategies and challenges as it comes to rider usage and where you put riders and how you get them back at the bottom, and making sure that all the riders in the bike park have a way down. And I've been able to learn a tremendous amount from them. I'm really fortunate. They really do understand this space, I think, as well as anybody in the world. And this bike park being designed by them is, I think the design, the implementation is where they're worth their weight in gold. Again, you can get lots of people to build great trails, but can you do it 30 times, 30 different trails, and make this one cohesive piece on 200 acres, on 280 foot of vert? That's the challenge. And they're doing a really great job, and I'm happy to be a part of it. They, of course, we all work as a team, but we're really, really hopeful to be able to deliver something unique, and it is unique. This is a very unusual project. As far as my research goes, I don't know of a single other bike park that has a high-speed detached quad only for mountain bikes.
The only other bike park that I can think of that was, I guess you could say, built for mountain bikes only, but it doesn't have the detached. That's exactly where I was going, but there's no detached.
Yep. Yeah. And again, they have a fun hill, but the high speed chairlift, man, it's a game changer. It ups the experience. It really does. It ups the experience.
Well, and that's really the key takeaway. You know, it was a handful of years ago now that I did the recording with Mark Hayes from Highland Bike Park. The thing that I took away from that is that he looked at Highland the same way you're looking at this, is that it's mountain bike only.
Yeah.
2, we can build a bike park that's going to cater to core people, but the reality is that that's not your bread and butter.
Right.
Those aren't the people, as awesome as everyone is. Those are probably not your people that are keeping the doors open in terms of like buying all the food at your restaurant, doing gift shops, getting lessons, doing all the things that actually make.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what makes ski areas successful, because they offer a complete package. It's not just about getting someone on a chair and going down whatever, experiences that they're going down. It's a holistic package, right?
It's the business model is not just mountain bikes. It is it is food and beverage. It is rentals. It is, some of these places have mountain coasters. I think mountain bike parks really oftentimes verge on adventure park, because you need to have multiple revenue sources, especially to operate a bike park with such a substantial initial investment as a high-speed chairlift. And I think one thing that is really important to remember about this bike park is where it is within the confines of Oz Trails and the greater Northwest Arkansas area. We have greenways and that border our northwest, east and south, actually northeast, south, and west side. There is trails and greenway spaces, paved trail roads, all pointing effectively directly at the bike. The bike park is going to be a central hub for mountain bikes. Not that the area needed it, because it already was a hub for mountain bikes, but now there's this extra added thing, this cherry on top to really sell the package. And, it's funny, you can say whatever you want about the area, but I don't know of a single other place that you can effectively leave your house from an enormous number of houses in town, and I can ride my bicycle effectively on Greenway straight to the bike park from Bentonville. Oh man, it's certainly unique, and certainly you can't ignore it. It's pretty incredible. You say what you want about all the other stuff, but the access to mountain biking in Northwest Arkansas is unparalleled. It is.
Man, it probably would have been 2020 or 2022, because there was that whole COVID thing that happened in that time frame. And I remember somebody telling me they're going to put a chairlift in a bike park in Bella Vista. And I was like, whatever. I know they have the capital to do it, but I don't know. And here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I think going back to what you said is this is a holistic thought process, though. This isn't just about the bike park. This is about generating revenue through tourism and having cycling as a backbone, right? What that means, though, is so much more complicated than just mountain biking. It means there's bike shops as the first tier of separation, right? Then there's rental companies as the first tier of separation. And then there's adjacent things to that, which is like mobile bike shop companies, which exist all over town. And then you've got bike themed restaurants. And then you've got regular restaurants. And then you've got hotels. And all of these interesting and completely unique businesses are part of this whole experience. And, again, the trails are a huge part of it, but I think what makes this place so unique is that we already have a couple 100,000 visitors a year coming to this area for mountain bikes. And now they just have another reason to come here. And again, we're going to ensure, that's my job, is to ensure that the trails here are worth their weight in a day pass, if that makes sense. Yeah. And sometimes that day pass looks different for different riders too. We're going to have an uphill trail that is a less, I don't know how much it's going to be yet. I actually don't know how much a day pass is going to be yet for certain yet, but it's going to be a significantly diminished cost to, if you just want to ride your e-bike up the climb line. We're going to have hiking trails that are a completely different experience. We're going to have a bike school on property. We eventually want to do a mountain coaster on the property. We want to do, I went down this rabbit hole at one point and was trying to figure out what all the things that different bike parks did to generate revenue. And it's actually pretty wild, the number of things that they do. I've seen bouncing bags and zip lines, both across canyons and retractable ones. I mean, the list goes truly on and on and on. But our backbone in Northwest Arkansas is mountain biking. And for this place to already have that is unique. A lot of bike parks that I go to are challenging to access because they're oftentimes, a ski area. And so even Angel Fire, for example, is a really well built out ski area, but Angel Fire as a town is remote and small, and really you don't have a lot else going on there. I will still go back, but as a family destination, this thing makes a whole lot of sense. You don't have to spend your whole week here. If you're going to Northwest Arkansas, there's Crystal Bridges Museum, which is, and again, another adjacent piece to this whole puzzle. Again, the list goes on and on and on, but this space is so unique. It really, I'm not sure this business model works in any other place in the world. Maybe it does, but it does make sense here.
So my brain went two different directions when you said what you just said, and they're totally opposite directions. But we're gonna handle this first one first, which is you talked about a climbing trail.
Yeah,
and maybe you have the answer for this, maybe you don't. Will there be? And I think of this when I think of we'll say Deer Valley Bike Park or Deer Valley Ski Area that's on National Forest Service land, and so technically, you have to pay to ride the lift, but anyone can come in off other trails to get into their bike park.
Yep.
Will there be the opportunity to use the bike park, we'll say after hours, when the chairlift isn't spinning, or is it its own thing? And I don't think there's a wrong answer to this. I'm asking purely out of curiosity.
So we are going to limit riders and people being in the park to hours of operation, simply because I think there's a liability issue there that, without patrol on site, and I know we're not running a chairlift, but if somebody were to get hurt, we have really, really great EMS facilities that are notoriously good for getting people off of challenging spots. But the trail density in our spot is different than any other place. We have a lot of trails stacked into a small space, and it can get confusing if you're not familiar with the trails as to where somebody is. And I think for us, it just makes more sense to leave the park closed and leave it kind of a unique experience to when hours of operation. Now, something I do want to note here on hours of operation is we have been thoroughly looking into the considerations of night riding and what that means for how would we implement that within the bike park. And we don't have any solutions yet, but we are working towards solutions to make that happen.
Yeah, especially in the months that we're in right now as we record this with limited daylight hours.
Yep.
But you have snow right now too.
Frankly, Josh, yeah, we do. I know. What a weird world. It's been 70 all winter here, so who knows? Another interesting part of that is too, but with lighting, it can allow us to do nighttime events, especially on the slope style, which can be really, really fun. You can get the community involved. You can get people fired up. It's not 1,000 degrees at night, and we're really excited about doing stuff like that. And really, again, we want this to be an epicenter for cycling in Northwest Arkansas, and we want the community to be heavily involved.
The other area my brain went is you talked about rentals and bike school. Do you know what you'll have? Is the rental fleet already getting, starting to get fired up there? And it is thoughts of bike school already going to be turnkey as you guys fire things up?
Yep. The goal is to have all of it operating day one. We do have a fleet of specialized 170 DHs, which are their hilariously fun coil rear 170 travel, 180 short travel boxer bike.
Are those like made specifically for as like a bike park rental?
They are
machine
park bikes. Yeah. They are they're mullets, so they're really not a true downhill bike. They're just like big squishy enduro bikes, which is, I mean, perfect for what we're doing. We got a bunch of big jumps and, yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun on those. We're also going to do an enduro fleet of Stumpy Evos and a full selection of kids transition bikes. I can't remember the name of those things, but they're sweet. The Ripcord, that's it.
You think I work there or something? I don't.
Oh, yeah.
My brain is a steel trap for some things like that and other things that only for things that probably are kind of useless information at most times.
Oh, same. I'll remember like the engine displacement of a mid-90s Chevrolet sedan. And people are like, why is it floating around my brain? I don't, what purpose does that serve?
Yeah. That's awesome though, that you got both transition and specialized in there.
Yep.
Bike school, I'm sure you're going to have like, I don't know if it's still a weird term in the bike world, even though I don't think it should be, like certified trainers.
Yeah. Yep. All of our trainers will be certified. I don't have tons of specifics yet on what that looks like. My side of operations is only really tied to them in terms of like where they're going to be doing their practice and what they want to be practicing on. But yeah, that's all going to be turnkey. We were kind of blessed with this property with a bunch of buildings at the bottom. Some of them are obviously have been torn down and more are still going to be torn down, but a couple of them are usable. And so from a standpoint of opening a bike school day one, it's been very helpful because we have a place to put that. And we'll see how that all plays out. Maybe I think the bike school is going to be super successful in this place. I don't see how it won't be, especially with the number of beginner riders that come to Northwest Arkansas already. And now they're going to have a place that they can literally do repeats without the physical problems that are involved with pedaling everywhere. And I love pedaling my bike, but the barrier to entry is no longer a physical one.
Well, people thought I was kind of crazy when I took my fiance on her second time ever riding a mountain bike, which was literally day 2 of riding a mountain bike to Jared's place. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm with you.
And this is right when they had opened. So I think they had been open for like 3 weeks at this point. So it's pretty, let's just say it's not as built. It wasn't as built out then as it is now.
Yeah.
But I was like, she gets a shuttle to the top. Like it takes the climbing part out. Like all she has to focus on is coasting and braking and the stuff that skill related.
And if you can teach somebody those two things, coasting and braking, they can get to the bottom.
Yeah.
But where you see people like really lose it with mountain biking is the physical constraints. I mean, if you've not done mountain biking, it is hard. It is aerobically a challenging sport. And it's interesting because downhill riding is a unique set of skills to mountain biking. I've ridden with tons of people who are super fit, but the moment we point our bikes downhill, I don't even see them anymore. And that's not a knock on them. It's just that our preferences are what we like to ride are different. And the bike park skill set is a unique one. And interestingly enough, I feel like has lower barriers to entry because it's not a physical fitness test. It's more of are you an adrenaline seeking personality? And, that invites a different group of human beings to the space, which is exciting.
For sure. Well, Ethan?
Josh?
I'm debating on whether or not I ask you one last closing question because you may or may not have information on it. It may be secret or not, and I could cut this out if we need to.
Okay, I think you should go ahead and ask it.
Yeah, because I can cut it out if I have to.
Yes, exactly. You have the power and the means to edit me if I speak poorly.
One of the things that came up during our first interview or the first conversation was it was right as stuff started coming out about Mina, right?
Yeah.
And now Mina is a lot closer to reality. It's been through the NEPA process. And for those that don't know what Mina is, I encourage you to Google Tom Cruise American Made, and you'll find out exactly about what Mina is.
Yep, that's accurate.
So that was a couple of years ago, and I know how much of a connoisseur of bike parks and how excited you get about bike parks. And now,
yeah,
according to this, I'm going to say this Arkansas, I can't remember the name of it, but it was definitely a news source that construction might be starting.
Construction is starting, and phase one is to cut the lift line. They're effectively going to follow a lot in the footsteps of what we've done, and the lessons that we've learned. And you start there, and Gravity Logic is they've designed that bike park as well, and we'll be moving there within the next year. I don't know exactly when, but yeah, that is happening, absolutely happening.
Just to remind people, because they probably won't get this detail out of American Made, what are some of the stats or numbers of that region compared to other regions, and what might be on tap when it does unfold?
I think most importantly is you are in a proper mountain range called the Ouachita Mountains in Mena, Arkansas. And that is national forest land, as you hinted at with the NEPA process. And it's really a beautiful remote part of the country. Mena is situated on the south facing aspect of a ridge line that is effectively 1,200 to 1,300 foot of prominence above the valley floor in that area. Mena is under 1 mile. The town core of Mena is under 1 mile from the base terminal of where you will start the bike park experience. And initially, there was a proposition to the National Forest Service for 5 chairlifts, and they have clearance at this point for 100 miles of trails and 3 chairlifts. Phase one, it looks like it's going to only be 1 chairlift, but that 1 chairlift accesses, again, well over 1,000 foot of vertical relief. And within the context of bike parks, there's kind of what's considered a sweet spot of elevation. And 1,200 foot of elevation is kind of at the very tippy top of that sweet spot. You're almost nudging on too much vert at that point. And too much is relative. If you have more than 1 chairlift and your mountains split up into different zones, you can have as much vert as you want and make all sorts of different kinds of riders happy. Snowmass has over 3,000 foot of vert that is accessible. Really fun bike park, but my God, a 3,000 foot lap is, you are cooked. if you're a southern boy like me and you got to go look for 1,000 foot of vert, 3,000 feet in a row is a lot. Mena, though, additionally, is a completely different geological zone than where we are in Northwest Arkansas. Their soil is very different. It's all sandstone based down there. It's a deposition zone unique to that part of the country. And it's beautiful. It's undisturbed forest. Of course, it has been disturbed at some point, but now that it's national forest, nobody has touched it in ages. And I love that area so much. The central portions of Arkansas, both Mount Nebo, Mount Magazine, they all are in the Ouachita Mountains. And the Ouachita Mountains are the biggest mountains in Arkansas. They're when you're looking out over a valley floor that is the Arkansas River, or on the south side, towards Jonesboro, it's really interesting terrain because you have these just big peaks that hang out of the ground, and then otherwise is completely flat terrain. And the views are incredible. The terrain is incredible. 100 miles of trail, if that comes to fruition, on 1,000 plus foot of vert, man. I mean, you're talking about a true world-class destination style bike park. And in combination with Oz Trails Bike Park, you're going to have a pretty sweet experience to be able to sell the public. You're going to, 2 world-class biking experiences, maybe not just the bike park, but Oz Trails with our 300 plus miles of trails, our chairlift here, and then another chairlift in Mena. You're talking about something that is not replicated easily in other parts of the world, and potentially could be sold as, if you're coming to this area, come here and do it as a week trip and spend your whole week doing different experiences on your bicycle.
I should know this answer, but I don't. But what is the distance between Bentonville and Mena? I know you've made the drive. multiple times.
It's about 3 hours by car. As the crow flies, is much shorter, but right now there's no good way to get there. Interestingly enough, the long-term vision is Mina is quite close to the Interstate 49 corridor, or the expansion of Interstate 49 corridor, which will eventually connect the Gulf all the way up to Canada and through an interstate network. So the idea is that you have Interstate 40 going east-west and Interstate 49 eventually being quite close to Mina. And so you'll have both of those access points. Mina is a small town. However, Mina is a unique place because it doesn't have much mountain biking yet. Some has been built recently, but they have a 6,000-foot strip, which alludes to the movie. And so as a business proposition, having an airport in town is important. If you ever want to see any real growth, or you want to have true world-class style downhill racing, you're probably going to want to have an airport close by. And Fort Smith is an hour and a half or so away. But, having an airport opens doors is all I'm going to say. And it's also an established town. There's a big grocery store in town. You can get a hotel in town. People forget how remote most of Arkansas is. There's only 30 or just over 3 million people in the whole state. Dallas has 10 million people by itself. Arkansas is mostly empty. And I love Arkansas for that. But Mina is not super far removed from that. And I say that because they do have some just like core level amenities for a town to have a recreation in it. And if all things go as planned, I just feel like the experience could be very complimentary to what we're doing in Benton County, Arkansas.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that answered all my questions.
Cool, man.
Perfect.
I hope I didn't talk your ear off too much, but
that's the point of this, by the way.
And, you're right. That's true. That's true.
That is the point.
I hope I didn't, say too much about Mina, because it's not my project, but I hope to be involved with it in ways as time goes on. I don't know what that looks like yet, but man, what a special place. The terrain there is unique. We're talking like house-sized rocks, and the soil is just, our soil in Northwest Arkansas is different. It's quite what I would call kitty littery.
Yeah, and the rock is really soil. Hard. Like it's and not sandstone. Very hard.
No, we have mostly limestone in Benton County, and we have pockets of sandstone, but the limestone is just a much harder rock, and so when it breaks. You also get we get what's called chert here, which is another kind of limestone, but it's not all the way formed yet, so it just breaks up into these little small pieces. I'm saying all this because Mina's sandstone, you get a really rich clay sand mixture, which if you know this, but a clay sand mixture is about ideal for
shaping,
for building, for shaping, for making smooth tracks. So you can exploit that down there because their soil isn't super rocky. It's not like road base like our soil is here. Our soil up here drains like crazy. Oh my gosh, you can ride our soil basically like in the rain most days here. And we plan, by the way, on operating the bike park in the rain. And they will have more challenges down there with normal soil problems, which are like rainy days get soft and soupy. But their aspect in Mina is south facing, which means it will naturally dry quickly. So, lots of things to consider. Yeah, I'm excited. It's an exciting time. I think I've said that word like 100 times today, but it is an exciting time for mountain bikes in Northwest Arkansas, in Arkansas in general. And I encourage people to come out here and ride because there's pretty much something for everybody. And the number of people that have an excuse to not come ride here, the gaps are being filled quickly. I can say that. That was not meant to be a gap jump pun, but
those gaps are still open.
Those gaps are still open. We got some big gaps at the bike park. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Ethan, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. It was a last minute ask on my part. I had some travel open up on my end. You're covered in snow. Yeah. My travel opened up because of snow.
Yep.
And so I figured it'd be a good time to pick your brain
I'm really,
and learn about
really
the
thankful
bike
to be
park.
here, Josh. And I genuinely appreciate you asking me to do this. And, I always, anytime that I get asked to be a part of something like this, I want to say thank you to the people that have helped me be successful in this industry. And I've brought those people up last time, I think, as well. But Brandon RC, one of my longtime good buddies, Robbie Wells, who is doing a great job at Trailblazer, is also in town in Bentonville now. Joshua Hardy and Gary Vernon, man, these guys are like they're my people, man. And they've helped me become the builder I am, and have helped me really succeed and be successful in this space. So got to say thank you to all those people.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate you and everything. And
yeah, man,
we'll see you at Oz Trails Bike Park soon.
Can't wait to see you there. We'll do some laps together for sure.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please take the time to share these shows with others. Sharing these shows will help create awareness of both the guests who have taken the time to be on the show and the podcast series itself. Also, if you're new to the Trail Effect Podcast, check out our ever-expanding library of episodes. If you listen to the Trail Effect Podcast on Apple or Spotify, please don't forget to leave a rating and review, as this is one of the best ways to show our support for the Trail Effect Podcast. For additional ways to help support the Trail Effect Podcast, check out the affiliate links tab at the Trail Effect website, where you'll find links to Kettle Mountain apparel and Trail One components. By using the affiliate links found at www.traileffectpodcast.com, a small commission will come back to the podcast, which will help keep this thing going. This podcast has been edited and produced by Evolution Trail Services. Thank you again for listening.